The top 3 reasons people sell their agencies.
Yeah, interesting.
So you think you know the answer to this? Maybe you do, but I don't think you do. I don't know.
I'm really comfortable at $3 million and 10 people. I bet you are. I bet you're making a ton of money. Good for you. Except, you got 2 or 3 groups of silos, and all of a sudden somebody walks out the door and now you're screwed.
There is no maintain in my book.
No.
There is only grow or die. And the reason why that's true is just because you have clients that leave, or this last year we've heard a lot, budgets are cut, or
Yep.
they're gone, or
they will be cut
back.
Yep.
And so what happens is now they're in trouble, and they weren't growing. They didn't have a sales mentality, and so they didn't have anybody to replace them. Now they're scrambling, and it's like, okay, you can't be in that maintain mode. You can't be complacent ever in this business.
Agreed.
And I'm going to have a lot of people disagree with what I'm about to say.
It happens. It happens to us all the time. It's fine.
What I say sometimes isn't the most popular, but sometimes truth hurts. And there's going to be people that can prove me wrong. I won't say
I'm sure
this is the case every time. If I relied on my agency growth by doing paid search, I would go broke, number one.
100%.
Number two, the clients that I would get wouldn't always be the right clients.
Nope.
The second piece of it would be if I relied on SEO only. It's similar. I usually had better quality of leads when I did SEO and got it, through my rankings. I had a little bit better quality than I did paid search. But again, if I just relied on that, it's kind of like you just, it's a box of chocolates. You just don't know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's very much like whatever's going to come to us versus what I'm going to go get. And I want to go get the right clients. And so it's a real difference that most agencies don't do. They just kind of throw out this net.
Hey, welcome back to another edition of The Growth Engine with Ryan H. Rice, brought to you by Healthy Brands. Ryan, what is up, buddy? Man, I'm suffering, I think, from the post-hangover Chiefs win thing, and I didn't even root for him. Damn it.
How did you not root for the Chiefs? You live here. You live in Kansas City.
I didn't root against them. I was more like, I think they're going to do well, but, also Philly's really good, so let's have a great game, so... Yeah, it's great for the town, obviously.
Yeah, I have to celebrate now. There was too many years in the 90s where
100%.
We didn't have a good team, and it sucked. So anyway, the Growth Engine is not about sports teams growth. It's about agency growth and marketing leadership teams and growth in general.
Growth. Right? Yes.
Okay, so we're going to get back on track here. Sorry.
All right.
Well, hello, agency warriors, marketing leaders. We're ready to get after it today. Today's topic is more directed towards agencies. The topic is the top 3 reasons people sell their agencies.
Yeah, interesting.
So you think you know the answer to this? Maybe you do, but I don't think you do. I don't think. And there's a couple of reasons why. But what do you think the top reason is, Trice?
Honestly, this is a great topic for me because I don't have a clue. Even when I think about it, maybe they've grown to a certain scale that they just feel like this is the best time to sell to get the most, sort of ROI for their investment time and dollars and whatnot. I don't even see that happening with a lot of people because they're so emotionally connected to it that I honestly, I don't really have a great answer for that. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Okay, well, no, so that actually is not in my top 3. That is actually a very rare case that somebody recognizes that they're at the peak at the top. They usually have hit the peak and are riding the ship downward in some way. If that is the thing that happens. But here's the top 3. I'm going to do it in reverse order. I'm going to start with number 3, and number 3 for agencies is actually number 1 like worldwide.
Mm,
Number three for agencies is the owner's retiring. They're done. They made
yeah.
their money or their age hit, right? Like it's one or the other. They're
Yep.
retiring. They're done. They're old. Like it's out. They're out.
They
They're
went out.
done.
Yeah.
It's time to retire and move on and enjoy the life they have left and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. That's a
that
great
is number
feedback.
one in just selling businesses, in general. That's number one.
Yeah.
Retirement is the number one reason people sell. Um, so there is a reason why that is retirement at number three, and it has to do with number one and two,
Mm.
which just means a lot of people don't own agencies as all the way into retirement. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They get out before they hit that age where they really like they don't necessarily retire, but they want out early. Sort of like you. Like,
One out or forced out. It's one or the other. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
So that's number three. Number two, because that's easy to define. Number two,
Yep.
we'll go right into it. They can't grow it. They can't
Mm.
grow it.
Yeah.
Biggest problem in this area is sales. They hit the ceiling with their skills and capabilities, and
Yep.
often that has to do with sales or growth strategy.
Yep.
Agency positioning a lot of times comes into play here. It that can be the case, but they can't grow it. They get tired of trying to grow it,
Yeah.
and they have this point at some point, like where they realize, I can't. Like they kind of throw the flag up and say, somebody else is going to have to come in here to do it because I've tried.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's funny you say it this way because most of the agencies that I know or that are like agencies I've heard of in the last, 3 or 4 years kind of thing, to me sort of feel like they came out of nowhere. And they went from, 10 or 15 people and I've never heard of them before to 30. And they've grown like big jumps quickly. And the ones that I've seen that are sort of in this like either large agencies or medium-sized agencies that haven't grown, they sort of hit a plateau and they just are like, this is what we do. This is who we are. This is how many people we have.
Mhm.
And we just keep it going. And I always find that funny because I'm always like, we talk about plateaus and agency stuff all the time. And I'm always like, that's just such a weird phenomenon to me that you're just like,
Mhm.
cool. This is what we're going to do now for the
Yeah.
next, 20 years or whatever.
Yeah,
And like,
most agencies get stuck in that place, Trice. Like that place is between, I've seen as low as like 7 people,
mhm.
but it's usually between like 10 and 15 employees. And the revenues are somewhere between like 1.2 and 3 million in sales or revenue.
Interesting.
And they get complacent a lot of times because they tell themselves, well, I've tried and we can't grow past it. It's not reasonable, they say. Like agencies don't, and that's a normal agency size, which there is a lot of agencies in that
Yeah. Tons.
range.
Tons.
But they kind of go, okay, well, I'm just going to get comfortable with this where it's at. And so they might have had the desire to grow it at one point. But
Hmm.
they kind of go, you know what? I'm good with it where it's at. Like you're saying,
Interesting.
it's okay. I'll maintain. A problem that I see with that piece of it is there is no maintain in my book.
No.
There is only grow or die. And the reason why that's true is just because like you have clients that leave, or this last year we've heard a lot, budgets are cut, or
Yep.
they're gone,
Or
or
they
they
will
won't
be
come
cut.
back.
Yep.
And so what happens is now they're in trouble, and they weren't growing. They didn't have a sales mentality. And so they didn't have anybody to replace them. Now they're scrambling, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, you can't be in that maintain mode. You can't be complacent ever in this
Agree.
business.
Agree. That's a dangerous place. We've talked about this a lot on this show. That 5 to 15 people scenario.
Hmm.
What you end up doing in a lot of cases, obviously, as an agency owner and management, is you grow the breadth of services. And so you have 1 or 2 people that are, in each of these categories of service, and there's not a lot of overlap. and also there's all your expertise is in a very, very small group of people. And all of a sudden the market gets hot. People are paying big money for some of these people, talents, and somebody leaves for 30% more money or 40% more money. And now all of a sudden you are holding the bag, and your clients, it's constant disruption for them, and also expertise that walks out the door. And that's really, really bad for business. And if you're not growing, you do not have the opportunity to hit some capacity of overlap so that you serve clients consistently in all of these areas. And we've talked before about being niche and being focused and not going breadth for those exact reasons we just talked about. But if you're not growing, this is where the trap hits you, because you are like, I'm really comfortable at $3 million and 10 people. I bet you are. I bet you're making a ton of money. Good for you. Except, you got 2 or 3 groups of silos, and all of a sudden somebody walks out the door and now you're screwed. And you're scrambling to find somebody just as talented for the same amount of money-ish. Isn't going to happen. Or you're paying more, and now you're like, shit, I'm paying more. There goes, more overhead or whatever. And you're not focused on growing. So it just keeps hitting margin. And you're like, so it's a trap. And your spiral starts with those kinds of things. And if you don't get ahead of it and you don't think growth all the time, you fall into this.
Yeah, it goes back to me that the activities that the business owner who's typically doing the sales, or
if it's that small, sure,
agency, is their activities. Are they doing the things they need to do daily and weekly to ensure their success? And the truth is they don't. And I love you agency owners, but you don't. And very, very few, like, I don't want to be black and white on that. Very few do. And very few are really sales minded. They've sold because they knew what they were talking about and what they were doing. And so that can be a way you sell. But I want to break that down. Can't when I said can't grow it as like the number 2 is the thing I said, that can mean you can't get the leads to have the conversations, or you can't get the conversations with the right target audience to get to the part where you actually sell or solve their problem, however you want to say it, either way. And so when somebody says like they do sales, like no problem, sales is no problem for them. I don't know which one they're talking about, because oftentimes I know somebody who, if they get a conversation, they'll get the business. It's getting the conversation that they have troubles with. And so the activities that you do daily and weekly have to align with these conversations. If you're not having new conversations weekly as an agency owner, you're not on a good path.
It's interesting you say that, because I think about it deeper, and I'm like, I know agencies that are very sales focused. They have a good sized team of people, and they have people that are dedicated to business development and networking and things like that. And it's really funny. They have a great sales mindset, and their owners are always closing, but they don't do any marketing. And I also know agencies that do a ton of technical, a lot of web development, a lot of SEO work, and they are fantastically ranked from an SEO perspective and do, some good marketing from that perspective, but they knew no sales, and they do no brand. And their brand or their brand's all social, and that's the extent of it, right? So they're very much a marketing mindset about growing, and it's not a sales mindset about growing, which is fine if the leads just walk through the door every day and you can close them with very little effort, because you're like, this is what we do and this is how we do it, and it's so convincing and compelling that people are like, okay, cool, let's do it. Yeah, I'm in. They seem, the agency I'm thinking of, they're very much that way. But I think that's interesting the way you bring that up, because I've seen very few organizations that put these two pieces together, especially ones that are under $5 million revenue annually, right?
Mhm.
They are very one side or the other or neither. And if you're neither, you're trapped.
You
And if
know,
you're one or the other, you can have a lot of success, but not as much as you would if you put them together, probably.
and I'm gonna have a lot of people disagree with what I'm about to say. Um, I'm not
It
always the most
happens.
pop
It happens to us all the time. It's fine.
what I say sometimes isn't the most popular, but sometimes truth hurts. And there's gonna be people that can prove me wrong. I won't say
I'm sure.
this is the case every time. If I relied on my agency growth, uh, by doing paid search,
Oh,
I would go broke, number 1.
100%.
Number 2, the clients that I would get wouldn't always be the right clients.
Nope.
The second piece of it would be if I relied on SEO only. It's similar. I usually had better quality of leads when I did SEO and got it, through my rankings. I had a little bit better quality than I did paid search. But again, if I just relied on that, it's kind of like it's a box of chocolates. You just don't know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's very much like whatever's going to come to us versus what I'm going to go get,
Yeah.
and I want to go get the right clients. And so it's a real difference that most agencies don't do. They just kind of like throw out this net. Social media. I actually like social media leads. The problem is social media it really isn't designed to be a lead gen source. Again, people are going to disagree with that. Um, if you're doing paid social, that's a little bit different, and I didn't
Yeah.
do a lot of paid I had good rankings and good, followers, so I didn't have to do a lot of paid social, but people have to do that more now. But just doing posts and some things like that is great social proof. It's a great way to build trust and your brand, all
Hmm.
those things, but it's not really the lead gen thing. So the things that agencies sell to other people, to their clients,
Yeah.
sometimes aren't lead gen things necessarily or the best lead gen tools. And so they're for other reasons. There's other
Yep.
reasons why you should do those things. I'm a huge
Yep.
believer in all of those, for different reasons.
Yep.
But going back to it, it's activities that get the right business and the right leads. And what I mean by that is activities can be in social media, it could be commenting, could be using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It could be really having conversations by having conversations.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And then activities can be if you're local and you can get business locally, like that would be obviously going to networking events in
Right.
person on Zoom. Like it's being seen, right? It's actually being present in front of people and having conversations.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And it's funny you say it that way. The group that I mentioned that was more marketing focused agency mindset um, did a lot more networking, presentation type, face to face activity, and rather than sales focused groups, which I thought that was interesting because you would think it'd be the other way around. Um, but the marketing mindset ones realize that their marketing is accentuated and better once people have a connection and understand and see someone, because then they're like, they think of a brand and they think of a person, and they're like, they align these things together and they start to follow, if they're interested, right? If that they get that far, they start to follow all the mechanisms that you put in place. They look at you, they look at your site, they run into you somewhere on SEO perspective, they look at your content, they follow your social, like they start doing all the things you want them to do. Whereas if I was in the sales side, I would be a ridiculous networker. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Because you're not necessarily doing all the marketing related types of things as your primary,
Hmm.
but once you get out there and you do some of that stuff, they fall into that same funnel and then they get into your sales funnel. I mean, that's the whole point of this growth engine, is you're doing it from both sides, and you funnel this so that you can have that conversation and
I've,
open that dialogue. Yeah.
I've learned from really good sales guys. And one of my sales guys, I might have mentioned Dan before. He's now retired, But Dan, he never wanted marketing leads. He never wanted them,
Mm,
and he'd turn them down. I'd take him a lead. He'd be like, "No, I'm good. Give it to one of the other guys." And and what he understood was that
hmm,
if he actually worked off referrals in his network, he would always get a better quality lead, higher closing percentage, which gave him an extra bonus, and would generate a higher average dollar per sale. Um, and the jobs just went incredibly well. And so he understood that networking was important. I love my network. I love my
yeah,
network. I love the people in it.
yeah,
Marketers, marketing leaders, agency owners, other business owners. I love my network, and I
yeah,
have worked really hard to build it, and really hard to maintain those relationships because these are my people. And when I talk about tribe, this is my tribe.
yeah,
I can have conversations with any of them, call them up at any moment, and they're going to be there for me, and I'm going to be there for them. I love my
yeah,
network.
yeah. It's interesting because um, as a CMO, right? Like your network is a blend. It's a blur, sort of in a lot of ways, because you cultivate relationships in marketing because you're a marketer, and CMOs, obviously, because your peer group, and then people that are around that are selling into or out of kind of relationships, obviously.
Mhm.
But then also you have industry relationships. And if you have changed industries at all and not stayed in the same one for 40 years, your network becomes this strange hodgepodge, and it has its own phenomenon, and it's different for every single person, right? And that is one of my favorite parts about it now, having been in multiple industries and getting into a new one now. um, it is fascinating how to watch the behaviors of different people and different types of networks that ebb and flow
Mhm.
based on their own businesses and economies and whatnot. And so I do find now my network to be really interesting to watch and to be a part of, because I get the strangest, not strange so much as randomest connection requests, or conversations that start, or old connections that I'm like, I haven't talked to that person in a really long time, and you reach out to them and they're like, just like what's happening with them and stuff. It's just such a cool process to watch. um I think that's really interesting. I think we're both at an age where we've met a million people, and that we have the benefit of that too, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I
It
think
helps.
in that can't grow it category, when somebody's struggling, if they look back, and a lot of times they haven't been trying to grow a network or meet new people.
Yeah,
That can be, and they don't have the energy and want to do it anymore. That is like they're just facing
there's
reality.
that.
But agency positioning, also, and I don't want to go too far into this because we've talked about this before, but um, horizontal or vertical, a niche, like
Right.
having agency positioning that's strong, is the way that a lot of people grow their agencies. And one of my, teaching points is to do that, to find your lane. And so they can't grow it for any of these reasons. And they're like, "I give." And so that flag goes up, and
Mm,
that's when they sell it. So number 2 is
mhm.
very popular. It's very popular that
I
I talk,
bet. Yeah.
and the conversations I have with these guys are you sure you wanna sell it? Are you sure you wanna," like, I just wanna make sure, right? Like,
Yep.
there are ways to grow it. Like, I try to tell, and this is why I coach or coach, buy and sell agencies, because there's times where somebody calls me, they wanna sell it, and they really don't wanna sell it, but they actually wanna grow it, and they're just frustrated.
Yeah.
And so that's number 2, which leads to number 1, and number 1 and 2 are very close, but they are different. So number 1 is the reason why I sold my agency in 2018. It's called burnout. Burnout, man. It's like I was doing a drag race, and I hauled butt for like 3 years straight and grew the hell out of it. And I hit this point after about 3 years of just really going after it, and had a blast doing it, but I hit this point, and it's like the engine exploded out of the thing, and smoke everywhere, and I was done. It
Yeah.
was it was over.
Yeah.
So burnout leads to, I need to change something. I need a career change. I need
Life change.
a
Yeah.
life. That's what I wrote down. Life change would be something that falls. Career change
Yep.
is career change. I think a lot of these people, they get this point where they hit burnout. They realize I need a full on life change.
Yeah. I agree.
This is been good or bad either way. A lot of times agency owners tell you they've enjoyed their journey and they've loved doing it, but they're just ready to do something else. And so in the real world of like brokering, all types of businesses, brokers don't like this one. They don't mind saying burnout, but it's not their favorite one to say. They'd much rather say somebody's retiring. Why do you think they don't want to say that they're
It's like,
burnout and they want a career change?
yeah, it's like the least sexy thing in the world because it implies that you buy into this, you might face the same juggernaut.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that takes some explaining there, Lucy. Like you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta, like you gotta tell them like, well, maybe I wasn't quite cut out for it. Maybe, I didn't have the sales side of this.
Yeah.
You need to admit your mistakes, the faults, the weaknesses that you had,
Yeah.
the reasons why you burn out. If you can't identify them to a potential buyer, yes, I totally do, Trice. I think that that's exactly what they're thinking is
Yeah.
really maybe I need to second guess buying an agency. Maybe I've been going the wrong route. It sounds like
Yeah.
everybody's burnt out in this industry. Well, it has a high potential for burnout. It does.
It does.
And
Yeah.
so your health, your experience in growing a business in an agency, your network and leaning into other agency owners to hear where they've had success is important. And really having a full set of skills to lead an agency is so important, so that you don't hit that point. And you know what to do if you start burning out. Okay, well, I'm working too many hours. I know I have to change these things. I need to hire this person at the right time, or I need to
Yeah.
bump up 20 grand in recurring revenue before I hire this person that can relieve my stress and my working hours. It's these tactical maneuvers, right? That you have to understand and see with clarity to be able to navigate through an agency growth situation to where you're not just completely hosed and burn out.
Yep. Yeah. I think we've talked about so many different topics related to this idea, right? Because the hard part of agency life and building an agency is balancing all this stuff and managing the business versus growing it, and people versus all these different categories of work, and like there's just so much in there. And I think in a lot of ways, if you do not embrace the growth mindset, you are opening yourself for this eventual spiral, and that you will become one or two eventually, because you will just get to a place where you're like, I am tired of doing this. I'm tired of the uphill curve. I'm tired of constantly fighting the managing of the business or the people, or struggling to like replace folks because of work, the type of expertise I need, all this stuff, right? And if you're focused on growing, you put yourself in a really good position of saying, I can get resources, I can build brand, I can have the right kind of people, I can afford them, I can do great, the whole point, I can do great work for great customers. Well, that's the goal. And for every agency should be like, wake up, be awesome, repeat, done, right?
Yeah.
It allows you to find the right kinds of customers for you, the kinds that really, really openly respect and value the work, are willing to pay for it, that know you bring a lot to the table. They allow you then to get the right kinds of people and pay them the right kinds of money, so they're driving your business. And I mean, it's a win-win. But you cannot do it if you don't have the right mindset. And I think that you're right. Like, we've all faced burnout in some way, shape, or form in our careers. and it's very real. And if you let it go that far, you're looking at life change, not career
For
change.
change.
And
Yeah,
you're right 100% on that. And
yeah.
that's tough. That's a lot tougher and bigger.
Well, I don't know if I've ever said this on the show, but after I sold my agency, I was so burnt out, I took a year off. I mean,
Yeah.
I had some money in my pocket, I'm not gonna lie, like, it was a good thing for me. I did go out on top. I was burnt out and I went out on top, all both at the same time. Um, and and so I couldn't function. I mean, I was so almost paralyzed from, um, doing it for so long. I needed to unplug and unwind,
Yeah.
and so I really can identify with anybody who says I'm burnt out. I'm like, okay. I think about it like a charging your phone is, if you don't charge your phone, the thing's just gonna, battery's gonna die on,
Yep.
can't use it. And that's why, like in the growth agents or in the growth engine series that I do with people, like I have this foundation series I do with them. But then what's important is this reset. And so that's why I have a quarterly planning meeting. A quarterly planning meeting is a reset. Stop. It's just like stop for a second, right? Let's reset. What did we do? Okay, what did we learn? Are we still on the same going the same direction? Are we still on target? Do we want to reset?
Yeah.
What have we learned? What
Yep.
should we change? Um, and then again, an annual workshop where do a major reset of what's this next year going to look like. And so we're constantly in that growth minded thought process. We're constantly resetting, and that actually prevents burnout and creates energy and excitement when you're doing it. It
Yeah.
makes it good. But if you just go and never recharge your battery, you just keep going, it stalls out. You burn out, the growth stalls out, everything stalls out. And that's why I think it's important to do that, to do those pieces of it.
Yeah. I really like your distinction between group one and two, because it's the difference between I've hit a place and, in my business, and um I don't know how to grow
Mhm.
because and I think I want to sell
Yeah, 2
versus
is frustration. 2
right.
is I'm frustrated beyond.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
hit a place. I've probably been in this place for a little while. Um, and I'm frustrated. I can't grow. I want to get out.
yeah.
Knowing that if I keep going this way, I'm going to kill this thing, and that's not why I got into this.
Mhm.
Versus one, which is I've been frustrated for a really long time, and I've still had success. I probably waited too long to get out of it, and
Yeah,
now I need a significant life change. And I think
yes.
it's, from a selling standpoint, one of the reasons you do not want to get into this group is, well, now selling it's hard
It is
because
much
you
harder.
have a lot of work you have to do to prepare your business to be sold, and to
Mhm.
work with the broker to give potential buyers the right information to buy. And
Mhm.
you're already like, I'm done talking about this shit. You're like,
Mhm.
I don't want to. So you're not helpful necessarily in the selling process, and that's not good for you. That means
Right.
your business is not going to get as much value as you would like it to in some cases, because you're the best salesperson in a lot of ways, right? And
Yeah.
if you're over it, that you're really doing yourself as a service. I tell people this all the time. Actually, sorry, this
Sorry.
last is,
You prompted my thoughts here.
I know,
Yeah.
it's when you get to the place where your empathy for the project that you're working on is gone, and
Yeah.
your attitude is, I just want to get it fucking done. You've lost,
Mhm.
because all the enthusiasm and all the good work is probably gone, and you just don't care anymore. You just have to
Right.
be finished. So if selling is your goal, do that before you get to group one, because you're going to hurt yourself. It's not going to be any good at
And
all.
your family, everybody around you, you lose
It's going to
friends, like,
suffer.
I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say in that, can't grow it phase, I would say most of the time somebody comes to me and they wanna sell their agency in that phase. They're actually profitable. They're actually like, I would say probably a 60-40 split. Like, most of the
Okay.
time they're profitable.
Yep.
They just hit a ceiling and they just can't get further, and
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yep.
In the first category, the burnout side of it, like you said, a lot of times they burn out and then they rode that ship down a little bit. And then so it is so important to recognize and be honest with yourself in that in these phases and these stages that you go through, because if you've done that, then you don't have the energy to build it back up to sell it. Now you're just on the downside. And we talked about doing valuations on agencies and businesses on one of the episodes. And
Yeah.
if you've created that downward on your financials, your year over year, and it looks like you're going down, that's going to hurt your multiplier to where you can't get the money that you'd like out
100%.
of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am talking to two agencies right now, and this is the case. Um,
Really.
I've tried to talk them into actually staying on board and spending the next 1 to 2 years getting that upward trend back. I know they can do it. They don't want to. They're burnout. They're done.
Wow.
And they're oftentimes at the point where they'll say, "I'm so done. I'm willing to walk away from it if I have to, and close the doors and make nothing."
Fuck.
And that's not what they want to do. But the reality is if depends on how bad it sank, like they might
Yeah.
might not be able to sell it.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
I'm
I'll tell
dealing
you,
with this a lot right now.
yeah, and I'll tell you the other side of this, right? Like we're not talking about this, but it's a good topic. Buyers. You're an agency owner, you want to buy another agency, you're whatever, you're a marketing guy, you want to buy an agency and you've always wanted to do it. You don't want to build something from scratch. You want to buy in. Cool. Buying an agency in group one is I've not done it, but I can only imagine that it's brutal because the team's probably suffering. There's lack of leadership. There's probably financial problems. There's like there's a cultural problem
Right.
here potentially. Like I'm gonna bet that's pretty common. And buying something that is a cultural problem, while you might get a great deal, you are gonna pay for it on the other side. And the work it takes to turn it around.
Well,
You know,
I agree with you on that. I guess this is where I actually throw back at the potential buyer a little bit, because I'm saying you can actually take something over where you actually can come in with a cape on. You're the hero. You're
yeah,
saving the day basically in this agency. People will
yeah,
love you. It's about your confidence that people will love you and that you can actually take it over and turn it around.
yeah.
And so I see more buyers that are scared of that situation, that they don't
Mm,
have the confidence to do that.
interesting.
And it makes me think, well, you probably shouldn't be buying an agency to begin with then. If you don't have that confidence in yourself, if it has to be so teed up that you think that you're going to get in and buy it, and then it's going to get
Yeah,
on autopilot and grow without you having to be that person, you're probably wrong. Um, so I think that those can be good buys. They can be good
mm.
situations. The sooner you take it over, the better usually. You don't want that business to go downhill. But
No doubt.
you can come in and make people just happy as hell that you have bought it and took it over. So
Yep.
that's all the time we have for today. So thanks for joining in. The top 3 reasons people sell their agencies. That's what I run into. That's not a major like research. There was no major poll done on it. It's what I run into. I do this every day.
Yep.
And if I break it down, that's what it looks like. And so you don't see you don't see 1 and 2 sometimes. And the reason why you don't see 1 and 2 in this, where the burnout or they can't grow it, is because they just go under.
Wow.
This is why you don't see them sometimes, and why they don't come up is because people ride them. They take the ship down, and it goes, and they don't ever uh, get any money out of the business. So it's an interesting situation to see
Yeah.
this. So I can
Very much so.
identify those traits in businesses when I'm coaching them. I can identify them a mile away. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, we got to make that change now, because I can actually see you're on course to be somewhere you don't want to be.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Good stuff. That's really interesting. It's a great perspective because I would bet most people don't see this, in the agency world. It's just hard to run into. And you're right. They either drowned or grow.
Yeah.
So
Grow or die. Yep,
grow or die.
that's the theme. All right. Well, Dries, thanks a lot. If you enjoyed the show today, please comment below if you have an opinion on any of these: burnout, growing an agency, or you want to talk about retirement after the agency life. go for it. And please share this episode and like us and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Thanks.